back into the afternoon drive. 4:40 is our time. Let's get to the hotline, and joining us on the hotline is South Carolina's Governor-elect Nikki Haley, and it's always good to visit with you. Welcome back to the program.
Hey, Kevin, how are you?
Doing great. Thanks for joining me today. Really nice to have you on.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
Well, you've been busy, and
been.
in a good way, and getting high marks from really all sides that I'm hearing from. People are real happy with what you've done so far with the transition. Take me through your thought process a little bit on how you're going about resulting in each person you've named.
Well, first of all, I said this from the beginning. What I love about this transition, what I love about going into this administration is that I don't owe anybody anything. I didn't have the establishment people. I didn't have the money people. I had the cooks in the kitchen and the parking meter attendants and law enforcement and small business owners. I had those real working people. And so what I'm doing with the new administration as we go forward is really putting people in place that understand that we have to be results-oriented, that I want people to feel it in their wallets and in their bottom lines the very first year. And so with Bobby Hitt, he was coming from BMW, but what I loved about Bobby for Commerce was we have to get jobs, and we've got to get jobs quickly. Bobby has not only, for BMW, negotiated with Commerce. He understands what the workforce issues are. He understands what the research universities are doing. He has dealt with the ports. I mean, there is no aspect of Commerce and what a company needs to go through on a CEO level that he has not experienced. And so there's no learning curve with Bobby Hitt. And that was just a driving force. And I also liked how direct he was, how he understood that losing is not an option, that we need to get the best quality companies in here that can get our people back to work. But he understood more, and this is what impressed me, was that to do that, you've got to take care of the small businesses you already have. So he just really got it. And so he was definitely my pick for Commerce for that reason. And then as you go into LLR, Catherine Templeton, she's a labor union lawyer. She understands that we're a right-to-work state, that we keep the unions out and we need to stay that way. But she also understands that this is an agency that right now is moving too slow, effective, and has a lot of red tape in it. You know, we've got realtors who aren't getting their licenses for 6 months. We've got people who are not feeling like it's consumer-friendly. And so she has experience in going in and cleaning things up, and she also has experience with the fact that if there is a union fight, I don't want to lose it. She'll step up to the plate.
You know, today you named more of the team that's going to actually surround you on a day-to-day basis. I was thrilled to see the name Ted Pitts involved.
Oh, you know what? What we did was we changed the structure of the governor's office to where we have one chief of staff and 3 deputy chiefs of staff, and that was because really, if we're going to do this, you do it right. You have to make sure all your bases are covered. So Tim Pearson, who is the campaign manager, knows every promise I made to the people of this state and went through that campaign and understands what it means to deliver. Then you've got Ted Pitts, who's going to be the deputy chief of staff for policy and our cabinet agencies, and he was just very policy-driven when he was a member of the House. He was very respected, good conservative business person. I mean, just the right person to go in there and deal with our cabinet agencies in a way that they're effective. You know, we put Trey Walker in charge of legislation and communication. He's been the chief of staff for the Attorney General's office. He also has worked for the as executive director of the Republican Party, wealth of experience, but he also has good legislative ties and communication ties. And then we put in Catherine Haltewanger for Deputy Chief of Staff for Operations. She has gubernatorial experience, but she also, we stole her from the Republican Governors Association. So she has the high-level experience that we need to really just run that office as effectively and efficiently as we can.
Let's talk about your meeting with South Carolina's congressional delegation and how that went. I know Yucca Mountain came up. I know a few other things came up. Was it more let's get acquainted with each other and get cordial in our roles together, or was there some actual specific planning done?
Yeah, no, there's no time to get cordial with each other. I mean, I think that we've got a lot of work to do, and there has never been a time more than now where the states really have to be involved with their federal delegation. Washington is becoming more intrusive. The mandates are getting more extreme, and so I felt like it was very important to meet with the delegation. What I was surprised is it's never happened before. They went back and said they couldn't think of it happening since Strom, and they don't even meet that often. They don't even meet as a delegation, and what was interesting was there were no egos in the room. They were actually discussing real issues. We talked about the health care situation. I told them about my conversations with the president and what I was working on there. We talked about Yucca Mountain and the fact that South Carolinians have paid in $1.2 billion. I have asked for the president to give that money back. They were unified, and I want to add that Congressman Clyburn was in there. They were unified in our fight to get the money back for Yucca Mountain and getting us a permanent solution. They were unified in the fact that we have got to make sure that we have a good, strong port system in place, because for economic development, that is not an option to not have it. They were unified in the fact that I told them I want South Carolina to come first, and we've got to make sure we're doing everything we can for the citizens of this state. We also talked about education. We talked about the budget. I told them that we did not need any stimulus packages. We did not need any bailouts, that we would get through our budget situation by learning to live within our means. And it was a great exchange. There was actually a lot covered during that time. And I also went on to tell them that this was something I wanted to have on a quarterly basis, and that we really needed to have that communication going so that the federal government knew what we were going through as a state, and that we certainly knew what was coming down the pipeline so that we would be ready for it.
All right, let me get, I don't want to say I want to get personal, but I want to get at least delve in a little deeper with Nikki Haley for a second. We've kind of watched you grow up here on this radio program, from just entering into our General Assembly to obviously now being the CEO, if you would, or the face of the state of South Carolina. How cool was it, or how interesting was it for you to sit there? And I know you haven't had time to do much reflecting, but you are the one holding court now with U.S. senators, House members, really some movers and shakers, the House Majority Whip, all this stuff. They came to hang out in your office, and you were the one holding court. I mean, from just, we've, like I say, kind of watched you grow up here as a representative now. How cool was it?
I really hadn't thought about it, Kevin. From my standpoint, I think you have to understand that I feel like I have so much to prove to the people of the state. And so that is what drives me. So getting that federal delegation in a room, what I loved was how well they interacted with each other. What I loved was the unity in that room that I didn't expect to see. I'll be honest with you. I thought there were going to be some big personalities. I was a little worried about there being some partisan issues. I read the paper like you do, and that's not what I saw. What I saw was a delegation that loves their state, that understands there needs to be more communication, and they were so grateful for the opportunity to sit in one room and talk about the issues. So it was really, I don't know that it was a coolness factor as much as it was just a total sense of pride at how well they wanted to work together, because in the world of politics, there's just a lot of egos, and that usually gets in the way. And what they allowed to happen yesterday was to not let the egos get in the way, and to really have a real discussion on issues, and not worry about, who was winning or who was going to get their name in the paper or any of that, but to understand that Yucca Mountain's a real issue, that the health care mandate cannot happen, that we need jobs, and without that port structure, it's got to happen. And I basically said, I don't care how you do it, but get it done. And they were very responsive, and message received absolutely. What was cool about it was how united they were. It really was impressive to see.
Talking with our Governor-elect Nikki Haley for a few more minutes about some of the things going on. All right, let me stay on the personal side of it. Now, you had to go and sit in a room, and you got FaceTime with the President of the United States, and obviously this is someone that you have gone out of your way to criticize and label your opponent during the gubernatorial race as an Obama this and Obama that. So clearly, he wasn't looking at you as his best pal, but you had to go challenge him on health care. Did you have to, on the way up there or into your meeting, did you have to have a moment where you said to yourself, all right, Nikki, get yourself ready for this. Get psyched up for this. You're challenging the leader of the free world.
No, I didn't. It really wasn't like that. We went, I was all was and will always be respectful to the fact that that's our president of the United States. We all want to see him be successful. Having said that, it is my job as governor, and I've said often that as we are losing faith in Congress, it is up to the governors to step up and fight for their people and fight for what is right. So when I was in that room, and actually the vice president sat beside me, and we talked about how much he loves Charleston, and I welcomed him to Charleston, told him we'd love to have him. It was a great exchange. And when the president came in, I will tell you, I was excited to see the person that was leading our country. I was excited to see if he was as, bigger than life as what everybody seems to think of him. And, but what I saw was a man that came in that has been beaten up a little bit in terms of what's happened with the last election. Mm-hmm. I appreciated the fact that he had the press in the room, and then he sent them out, and he said, you know what, we're going to have an open discussion. There's nothing you can't ask, and I appreciated the fact that there was nothing off limits. And so I thought it was my duty working for the people of this state. I asked a couple of things. The first one was that the mandate of health care on South Carolina is something that we absolutely can't afford. I told him that our small businesses would go out of business, that the people could not afford the mandate, and that Medicaid already was taking up a sizable part of our budget. Would he please, and I said, I respectfully request that you repeal this bill. At that point, he said, as long as I am president, I will not repeal this bill. So then I told him I felt like as governor of the state, it is my responsibility not to just say no to something, but to give solutions. And I said, if I give you solutions of options, will you allow South Carolina to opt out? And he said, yes, I would be open to that. He said, as long as it was a state exchange, as long as it allowed pooling, and as long as it covered pre-existing conditions, that he would be open to it. And so I took that as, okay, now I've got to go back and see, is there a way I can make this option-oriented, private sector-oriented, without it being a mandate? And so that's what I'm going to work on, is making sure that we have an option. I've told the federal delegation that I was working on that, but until I had that we absolutely had to continue to fight this mandate, and I will do that. The second thing I asked him was, I said, you know, Yucca Mountain was a commitment that was made to the state of South Carolina and its taxpayers years ago. While Savannah Riverside is doing a great job storing our nuclear waste, it was never meant to be a permanent solution. It was meant to be a temporary solution. And I asked him if he would reopen the site and honor the commitment made to our people. And he said no. And then at that point I said, well, then give us our money back. And he said that he would have Secretary Chu call me. Secretary Chu did call that night, and we discussed it. I told him, I said, you know, I'm going to simplify this down. If I go to a store and I order a product and the product is not available, I get a refund until the new product comes up. And I said, that's what I'm asking of you. So we're in conversations with that. That's what I shared with the federal delegation. They are unified in understanding that we need to go and not just settle for when a commission comes out with another solution, but I want our money back. And so, you know, message received on their side, and I think they're going to go fight for it.
Excellent. Couple last things, I'll let you get out of here. One, the $143 million with education, where are we with that?
I asked Senator DeMint as well as Congressman Clyburn, because they were in the room, and I had seen a lot of the back and forth in the newspapers on that, and I just asked them what was going on with it. They were both very quick to say that the way the newspaper had reported it was inaccurate, that apparently the strife they were trying to show was not real. They were both working on the issue, and I said, well, then will you get back to me on the results? And they said yes. So, but they made it very clear that they were both working on seeing what the options are and what had happened, and so I expect for them to report back to me soon.
And last thing, with the budget crisis and the shortfall that obviously that you are going to have to deal with as our governor, I've seen reports of certain ones taking on deficits and things like that. Is that just at this point the only chance that there is, or what else can be done? You know,
deficits are just bad policy. And, you know, we don't want to go into debt. This is going to be a tough budget year. It's going to hurt. But having said that, I am very excited about the opportunity of going back to the basics, saying what is the role of government and how do we get us back there, going to every cabinet agency head before I appoint them and say, I want you to go into your agency, look and see what do we have to have and work our way up. And not just that, Kevin, but look at the federal dollars attached and realize that a lot of times when we take federal dollars, we are going off our course and off our mission of what that agency was intended to be and ending up spending more in the long run. This is a great opportunity to get our state back to the basics and really make it in a way that we're stronger and more competitive than when we get out of it. Is it going to hurt? Absolutely. Am I willing to take the heat? You bet. But are the people of South Carolina going to be better off and their taxpayer dollars spent better? I know they will. And so that's my job, and that's what, I think that's why the people voted for me, and I think that I have to make the hard decisions, and I'm not afraid to do it.
If we don't have a chance to talk before, I wish you and the family a wonderful Christmas and New Year's, and we'll talk to you soon thereafter.
Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. Great talking to you, Kevin.
Thank you very much. Take care now. Bye-bye. Governor-elect Nikki Haley joining us on the program. We need to do a break. We'll come back. A lot more coming up.